hope my topic upsets you, because it really should. In the US, 1 in every 4 college-age women have survived either rape or attempted rape, and those are just the ones who report it. Research from studies including the National Health Risk Behavior Survey, the National Crime Victimization Survey, and the National Violence Against Women Survey show that 8% of men admit to behavior that meets the legal definition of rape. And of those men, 84% of them deny that they did anything that constitutes rape. As an American citizen, as a woman, and as a survivor of sexual assault myself, the prevalence and acceptance of non-consensual sex in this country deeply concerns me. Adolescents are getting the majority of their sex information from mass media, violent and sexualized TV, films, video games, and pornography, leading many to form complacent attitudes regarding violent and non-consensual sex, and comprehensive sex education is necessary to combat this. Let me first explain to you how most adolescents acquire knowledge about sex and how these sources influence complacent attitudes towards rape and objectification. Then I'll show you how comprehensive sex education can fight these attitudes and hopefully fight the notion that any form of non-consensual sex is okay. Let me first explain some of the research linking violence in the media to violence in real life. Kids are developing complacent attitudes about non-consensual sex and the objectification of women because their only exposure to sexual information is from the inaccurate and often violent portrayals in mass media. These images perpetuate what has been called the rape culture in the US. As Matthew Ezell states in his study on the links between pornography and rape, to say we live in a rape culture means that we live in a culture in which rape is pervasive, prevalent, and normalized through social attitudes about gender, sex, and sexuality. These attitudes are reinforced every day by the way women are portrayed in mass media. In movies, television, and video games, women are much more likely to be portrayed in a sexual manner, i.e. revealing clothing, sexually suggestive postures, or facial expressions, and are more likely to be objectified than men. As Ezell points out, violence towards and hypersexualization of women in the media is what sociologists call enabling conditions, meaning that the more women are portrayed in this manner in the media, the more likely that women will become the victims of real violence perpetrated by men. Now, I'm not saying that violence and sex are inherently bad when they're in the media and that all young boys who grow up with this influence are going to grow up to rape young women. The problem is when young boys, the boys we grew up with, our sons and our nephews growing up now, have no exposure to healthy and positive information about sex, so their experience is solely with the violence in the mass media. So what can we do about this absence of healthy and positive information? We should institute comprehensive sex education at the appropriate age groups in all schools in order to combat what has become a rape culture. Developing a nationwide standard for what constitutes sex ed and requiring that all school districts develop curriculum to fit into these standards would go a long way to encouraging adolescents to think before they act. The programs would be similar to those required for graduation, such as sufficient mastery of the sciences, maths, and reading. Children would be educated beginning in elementary school on the reproductive system, pregnancy, contraception, and the physical and emotional consequences of sexual activity. Kids would be encouraged to talk to each other, their teachers, and their parents about sex. States such as New Jersey have already instituted requirements for sex education, or family life education as it's sometimes called. Programs are taught by trained and certified professionals and are instituted all the way from K through 12, and these have proven to be the most successful, both in correlating with higher rates of contraception usage and encouraging open discussion between kids and their parents about sex. College programs oriented towards educating young men have also achieved great success in redefining attitudes toward the acceptability of rape. 1 in 4 Inc. states that on average, 75% of the high-risk men who go through their program report that their likelihood of committing rape has decreased because of the program. While a number of schools across the country have developed sex education programs, many parents and a number of very vocal conservative groups have expressed concern that educating young people about sexual activities may encourage promiscuity and premarital sex. Research suggests otherwise. While it's difficult to conduct any sort of comprehensive research on these programs as there is no definition for what constitutes sex ed across the country, there has been some research done in this area. Findings show that in the programs that depart from the traditional abstinence-only model, increases in reported activity and reported sexual activity have only reached maybe 1 or 2% more than in the abstinence-only programs, which isn't even statistically significant. Education is the best solution to combating the prevalence of non-consensual sex in our society. As I said before, comprehensive sex education is the step we need to take towards weakening the hold the rape culture has on our country. The statistics are sobering. According to several surveys, anywhere from 62% to 84% of rape survivors knew their attacker. 57% of rapes occur on dates. And 35% of the men surveyed report that they would seriously consider raping a woman if they thought they could get away with it. We can combat these appalling statistics simply by offering our young boys an alternative to the violent images on their television screens. Young people deserve the information that could keep them from developing these complacent attitudes to begin with. By educating them and encouraging them to think seriously about sex, we can work towards turning 1 in 4 women to 0 in 4 women. To me, that's a future worth working towards. To sum up, much research has been done in sociology and in psychology in order to examine the effect of the violent and sexual nature of much of the mass media. Studies have shown that this portrayal of sex does have a negative impact on our collective attitudes towards women and towards rape. Something must be done to offer young people a healthier and more positive source of information. As a society and as a nation, we must address this complacent attitude towards rape through legislation and through education. We can demand change from our school boards and our congressmen, and we should. As a woman, as a daughter, a sister, a friend, I know all too well how much damage rape and sexual assault can cause, not just to the survivor, but to our families, our communities, and our nation as a whole. The women in this country deserve the ability to trust the men in their lives, and the men deserve the ability to trust themselves and to be trusted. We owe it to our children to provide them with all the information necessary to make smart choices and grow into trustworthy adults. After all, knowing is half the battle.